We've got Kunal in the studio joining us. Kunal, hi, morning. Since we're talking about HUL, before I take an overall Nifty view from you, we were talking about HUL yesterday in the closing show as well. If you could just run our viewers through what the charts are telling you again, especially after the earnings that we've seen.
See, I think the stock has done reasonably well. It's recovered from 2100, 2250 levels in the last, I think, couple of months, and especially at a point where from 2024 highs, HUL, excuse me, and many of these FMCG stocks, they'd gone through almost like a 30% to 40% correction. So after a sharp correction over the last 12 months, these stocks have started to show signs of recovery. I call it a strong, signs of recovery because these stocks have come back above their 200-day moving averages. Case in point, HUL, the stock at 2400 odd levels is trying to challenge its long-term moving average, which is a very positive sign because when stocks come back after say years of consolidation or months of consolidation in this case and try and challenge back above the long-term moving average, the structure improves for these names. So there are two things over here. One is that 2200 mark, which is the support for HUL from where it bounced off. That remains to be now a very strong support. And if you go back to the last 2 or 3 years of chart patterns also, 2200 levels thereabout has seemed to be a good support point where HUL has managed to see a good turnaround, and that's a demand zone. And the other and the more intriguing part is that on the short-term charts, the stock is showing signs of potential coming out of the 12-15 months of price correction, and the breakout of the 200-day moving average could probably put things into positive perspective for HUL. So bullish on the stock, and from a positional play, I would look at 2,600 as an immediate target for HUL.
Okay, so that's the take. Kunal, let me come to you on the market itself. How are you viewing the setup this morning? And global Q is not supportive, clearly. Another tough day of trade?
Yeah, it could start with a little bit of a tough day, but I think what matters over here, Harsh, is the mix of stocks, which could probably sell off, because yesterday in the last couple of days, it was purely IT-based sell-off which we'd seen, and that was one of the major reasons which contributed for the index corrections. Apparently, many of these stocks have shown signs of breakdown of sorts on the long-term charts. Whether you look at TCS, whether you look at Infosys, Wipro, etc., these stocks have broken either above their previous 3-year, 4-year of major swing support, or in many cases even the long-term moving averages. So that, I believe, could be a concern for the IT index as such. So we need to see the mixture of the sectors which could probably try and pull the indices down. But I also believe that till the time we are largely above the 25,500 mark on the index in terms of support, we would try and absorb these kind of corrections quite positively for the indices. Only a break below 25,500 mark, and if we close below those levels, that's where I would believe that there could be some bit of more negative sentiment which could be attached towards the selling pressure. But till that time, it could be more IT-driven sell-off is what I can probably put it.
Kunal, how do you look at some of the defense stocks there? Yesterday you had the DAC, Defense Acquisition Council, announcing approving nearly 3.6 lakh crores worth of equipment, which includes multi-role aircrafts and others. If you look at the defense budget as a whole, we have seen 18% jump in FY27, and it also now seems that this is going to be there for multi-year, where the defense budgets for capital is going to be more than 18 to 20% going forward. Many of the PSU stocks have been, had seen some correction in the past. HAL being one. Yesterday the numbers for HAL also came in, which were decent in that way, but with some margins being almost flat to slightly warm there. But how do you see some of the defense stocks, HAL, Mazgaon, Garden Reach, BML, BDL and BL?
So absolutely, Sajid, it's a very valid and a pertinent question, especially at this point of time. There are two aspects to the defense stocks. One is over the last, I think, few weeks, months, quarters, we've seen that one pattern emerging where there has been a distinct leader for the defense names, the likes of BEL, which has been managed to hold very, very strong about the 400 levels now. I think just about those 440 plus mark. And compared to the other stocks like HAL, Mascot Dock, BDL, etc., that stock has done phenomenally well. So there is a leader which is already established in terms of relative strength as well as absolute price scale for a stock like BEL. The second and the more intriguing part, which I think is very interesting, is the seasonality effect. Over the last couple of years, we've seen that defense stocks, they generally tend to underperform in the month of February, but they tend to have a very strong month in the in the subsequent month post February. So that's a March month, which apparently is one of the zones where defense stocks, they tend to manage to do a very strong comeback. Now, if we try and put both of these informations together, it gives a sense that maybe the worst for many of these defense counters could probably have played out in terms of the price trends, and we could be looking at a point where the risk reward starts to look attractive. See, the news flow will always start to look a lot more positive for the defense stocks once the prices have started to show signs of recovery. I would believe that we are in that process or in that path where the prices are starting to show signs of recovery. Maybe over the next few weeks, there could be positive news flows which could keep on accumulating for the defense counter. So I believe at current levels, one has to start looking at buying opportunities, more of value hunting opportunities for the defense counters. I would prefer BEL as one of the better bets over here, more preferred bets. But then for someone who's looking at a buy, I would think names like HAL, BDL, even to a larger extent, stocks like Mascot, etc., they also start to look extremely attractive from a long-term perspective.
All right, speaking about defense, the Defense Acquisition Council has given a nod for procurement of multi-role fighter aircraft, Rafale, combat missiles and airship-based high-altitude pseudo-satellites. These procurements are worth 3.6 lakh crore. Srinjoy gets us more details with regard to those.
Yes, the deed is done. This is the biggest defense deal since independence, or rather a major step towards the biggest defense deal, primarily because this is for 114 fighter jets, Rafale fighter jets, and for the Air Force, and these are absolutely necessary. These 6 squadrons will replace aging aircraft, and the Defense Acquisition Council, headed by the Defense Minister Rajnath Singh, cleared this process, and now negotiations can begin. This will be about the level of indigenization, the cost, and all of that. But it has been cleared by the DSC, and along with it, you have scalp air-to-air missiles. What is a fighter jet without armaments? So scalp air-to-air missiles are necessary, and they will come along with the aircraft. Also cleared have been a lot of other things, but apart from everything else, the Rafale deal is taking a step forward, and it comes just before President Macron arrives in India in a few days.
Okay, Srinjoy, thanks so much for taking us through a very detailed link of what this means for some of the defense players. And speaking of defense, some of these stocks were in focus yesterday on the back of their earnings. You had good show coming in from Bharat Forge. HAL did quite well. Other than that, you had BEL, Astra Micro, Garden Reach from the shipbuilding space also did pretty well for itself. And this morning, we have news on HAL that the Ministry of Defence has inked a 2,312 crore rupees contract with HAL for 8 Dornier 228 aircraft under the Buy Indian category. So another boost coming in for HAL after posting a good set of earnings yesterday. But shifting focus and once again focusing on what the overall macro setup is this morning. And Kunal, talk to us about where are you seeing the market opening, and more importantly, amid a market like this where we're not seeing a lot of strength, what would be some safe bets, or what are your picks this morning?
So yeah, I think of course the start would be almost 135 points on the downside. I would probably believe that we would try and retest 25,600 kind of a spot level zone for the Nifty on the short term basis. But I also believe that maybe I think if on an intraday basis, if we just about drop down to 25,500, 550 zone, that could actually be a point where maybe some bit of contra buying opportunities could emerge on the index front because of multiple things: option writing, straddle writing, which has happened at 25,800 strike going into the Tuesday expiry next week. So I would believe in that sense there could be a point where the markets would just about try to hold on to those 25,500 mark at least on a weekly basis. So that I believe could be a good zone for it. Traders could look at a contra buy, and the structure of the indices also hold on. It's not as if that there's been a huge unwinding of sorts for the index futures, which could probably indicate that there's been a withdrawal of long positions. We've been to this gradual process of unwinding of short positions, which has happened for the indices. So that's one important point to note. In terms of individual trades, I would look at a couple of buy ideas. The first one which I would suggest would be a Bharat Electronics. I think it's a very interesting chart, as we were discussing, that defense is one of the pockets which could probably try and outperform or at least outclass, given the kind of market scenarios we are. Even yesterday we saw some good traces of signs where many of these defense counters managed to pick up pace right from the start of the session yesterday. So we would look at BEL as a positive bet from current levels, targets of 455, stop loss at 435. And the second would be a contraband Bharti Airtel, a stock which has corrected almost 200 points thereabouts in the last 1 or 2 months. It's bounced back from its 200 moving average, and we've seen over the last 2 or 3 years that 200 DMA tends to be a good support point for Bharti Airtel on the medium term chart basis, and keeping that as a stop loss of sorts would suggest a Bharti Airtel for a near term target of 2065, stop loss at 1990.
Okay, so those are some pockets where Kunal is seeing some value or maybe